was my new theme music to begin this, I suppose, similar to other podcasts that have songs in the beginning or whatever. So, I'm starting this. If you're wondering why I haven't been doing this that much recently, it's because I have some fucking neighbors who are annoying as fuck. Um, and I don't like doing this shit around these fucking faggots. Um, so that's why. And I'm trying to come up with a new word to use instead of the F word because it's not really that ethical. But, I've been calling people losers, retards, whatever, nothing works. Like, I've been nice at first, but that doesn't work. So I was like, oh, maybe I gotta be an asshole. So I call people names, but that doesn't work either. So who knows what the fuck is going on. So I had a few things to talk about. And in case you're wondering, I'll say something about why this looks this way, or in other words, the fucking lighting. I turned the fucking lights off because they were casting a weird shadow. Uh, so the pixels are all, working in darkness, so everything looks like it's in slow motion. Uh, which I think actually works the other way. The only thing that looks good with the lights on is my fucking tooth. If you've been following this story, I got in a fight recently where some fucking retard uh, assaulted me with a deadly weapon and walked away. So if I ever see him, he should get his ass beat. He had a death wish. He wanted to die. That's why he did it. But I was like, this piece of shit isn't worth killing because I'm going to get in trouble. Uh, so I didn't necessarily let bygones be bygones. Whenever I do run into him in the streets, he's with like 10 fucking people and his brother, who's a fucking bitch. He's a fucking faggot, whatever the word is. Um, and no one wants to be friends with me. I'm always alone, so none of the shit makes sense. There's some phlegm in that, because people just want to like talk. Like whenever I go outside, I'm alone, and people always try to like provoke a response at me, but they also at the same time don't like direct confrontation. So you have to like just talk, and it looks like I have Tourette's, so I don't really do it. I'm not gonna do it anymore because I've talked about all this before, and I've been accused of talking to myself by family. Like people try to say I'm crazy, like oh he has Tourette's or he's schizophrenic or some shit. So I'm just not gonna do it. It doesn't make sense. There's been a bit less of that, but I'll say it again. I guess whenever I go outside, people are always in groups and they're talking to each other and try to like provoke a response, but it's just me. So like, there's no one to talk to. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense, but it seems like it doesn't make sense to other people and all that shit. So, there's that. Gee, but it looks like with the fucking lights on, like it blends in a little bit more, and the movement is more natural. There's more light to work with, but I don't like the shadow that it's casting. It just looks weird. Can't really fix it. So the light from the fucking screen is more in front of my face and direct. I've studied some cinematic lighting at university because I always thought Stanley Kubrick's lighting in his films were good. Other films have whatever light. They don't really seem to care. But I was smart enough to know that lighting is important in films, even though he used a lot of natural lighting and not even really setups or whatever. So if you were really serious and passionate, which a lot of these amateur filmmakers are not, you would spend the time doing the lighting, which means you'd have to change the shot composition on every shot or scene. But no one, really doing that takes a long fucking time, and a lot of people don't really want to use all that time and effort and energy and all that. So they just kind of take the easy way out. But I think that's retarded. Um, Basically, like, final word on this shit. So I know what's going on with that. If you've seen some other videos, I use lighting to remove shadows, but my other light broke, so I have to wait to get it fixed. So anyway, I'm doing this just to talk about a couple things. In no particular order. I'll try to remember what the fuck it was. I mean, I remember like one thing. To start, well, I could start with any number of things. I usually try to do like an hour or more, but I don't. I can't see this going on for too long unless something happens and I just go on a tangent or something. Which who knows? Maybe that'll happen. Um, Nothing's funny or whatever, but I mean, the only thing that's funny is unexpected stuff, I guess. But you know, this I was originally gonna do like stuff every day, but stuff happens, so it got delayed, and I was gonna do it earlier today even, but I was busy. My hair is kind of fucked up right now, or whatever, but um, I'll just see how this goes. Um, 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 I'll start with one thing. Um, let's see. This virus is boring. Call it a pandemic, call it an epidemic. They're fucking synonyms, basically. I mean, epidemic refers to disease and epidemiology. Pandemic is just worldwide shit. I don't know why people are freaking out about that. I mean, they're conformists, so it's bullshit. I really thought people were only using the word pandemic because they were trying to secretly refer to Pan from Dragon Ball GT and her character and what it means. Because I know a lot of these fuckers did not grow up with Dragon Ball. That's a recent thing. They're only trying to watch it because I've been talking about it online. I grew up watching it. I grew up with Marvel and DC. I grew up with Dragon Ball. I grew up with books, Shakespeare. People just keep trying to blindside me and, oh, did you know about this? Did you know about that? I don't know what they're trying to do. I mean, yeah, I do. Like, it doesn't work anyway. So, I'll just start by saying I regret writing or typing out the little short story book that I did, the first one, which was gibberish because it was meant to be a practical joke, but at the same time I understood the risks. I thought someone is going to think that that's how I really write, that's how I really think, even though it's meant to be even though I was at university at the time and writing regular and getting good grades, but like, people on the outside don't know that. Like, these people don't have access to the homework I was turning in, so they don't know. They're just going off of that I was posting online on Facebook like regular shit, but then they want to use, that as an excuse for whatever. So, and then they say that, oh, all things considered, person in the right mind would even do that anyway. So they try to say that to justify their belief, but I don't think it works that way. It's kind of illogical. I think it's mainly because they can't do it, so they're prejudiced. So I mean, again, I'll just repeat it. Like, I wish I never did it because this shit is ridiculous. And it wasn't even the right way. If you watch the previous video, I don't even really need to be saying this or repeating this, but it was really the one after the next one. After I did that, I rectified the situation a little bit, which I also already thought of and considered. I was thinking, oh, I'll have to do that. So I just whipped up a short story real quick. And it was all in the vein of the Crazy Wide Forever. But, the first time, I don't fucking remember what it was called, what I called it. But all I had was weed, and I thought that was how they were doing it, based off of Kerouac. I think I just read On the Road then, plus the Crazy Wide Forever. So, again, that was meant to be a practical joke, but people used the opportunity to assume that, that was like a culmination of all my effort, which is wrong. If you think that, you're dumb. And you're lying to yourself and others. This is not the truth. So after that, I whipped up a short story real quick, and then I just put some of that Naked Lunch, or whatever you want to call it, style prose in there, because the characters were like reading a book within a book, and it really illustrated what was going on the internet with it, and how it bled into reality. So that short story was actually written normally, but again, it didn't really do anything because people were still focused on the first one, I guess, and just the jumbled up prose, which was meant to be a tribute to the beat writers such as Bill Burroughs. That's what I was focused on, then, not really Kerouac, but or Cassidy, or anyone else. So, and again, it was like the short stories were for a number of reasons. At no point did I ever say that I was aiming to be an author of fiction. Like any hipster, wannabe intellectual, I was focused on journalism and nonfiction writing, but I thought I would do like a side project, which was that. So the other one I did was meant, as far as a short story goes, and I know a lot of people have not read Sherlock Holmes, which, as far as English literature goes, is pretty good, but there's too much competition from other shit, so people just downplay it. Like, oh, what about this? What about that? Like, they just keep trying to change the topic. Like, whenever I bring something up, they try to talk about something else immediately. Like, they just change the topic immediately. Like, oh, what about this? What about that? Like, I don't bring shit up so you could change the topic and talk about something else. Like, get to that eventually. Like a conversation should be at least 12 hours before any headway is made. Um, I think. So it was meant to be a tribute, like a not so much a tribute, but a reference to Sherlock Holmes. I just wanted to see if anyone would get it, and um, like after that, I tried LSD for the second time, and that's when I did the other book, if you want to call it that, or short story. Um, so I was thinking I didn't cite any time to write a novel or anything like that. Like I never said that. I never said I wanted to do that. At no point did I ever express that to anyone. Um, it was always like a nonfiction account that I wanted to write and I guess be known for. Um, and there's some stuff to talk about, I guess, but again, it was also meant to be a tribute to comic books and their typical length. Um, it could be something about the artwork and how it's a shortcut around normal prose. Maybe if everything was converted into words, a single issue or two would be about the length of a regular novel. But since a lot of the descriptions are converted into art and drawings, it ends up being shorter, and the text being mostly dialogue is not a lot. I mean, you know, you could add up all the words or whatever, and it'll be the equivalent of whatever. So these are, fiction mostly, not nonfiction. People used to say like, "Oh, I only read nonfiction so I could learn something. I don't read fiction, whatever," which is bullshit. Uh, for the most part. So that happened, and people just thought like that's what it really was or whatever. Like it was basically a test. Like what I basically proved was that people didn't know what was going on. Fewer people than I anticipated knew what LSD was like or whatever. So I said it again. The only reason why I did it that way is to reference that experience, and there was some connection between comic books and mushrooms and LSD or just psychedelics. Uh, Particularly Marvel and DC, they do it too. Whatever, that like that's how it works. All things considered. Um, so after a certain point, talking about like certain books or trying to review them becomes sort of a chore in a way. One thing that happened is Graham Hancock started saying stuff like, "Oh, stuff just keeps getting older because he's not a scientist or an archaeologist, but he writes about archaeology and history, and so he's talking about stuff they don't really teach you in school or stuff they gloss over in school, and so he's just talking about stuff like Atlantis. Like if you go to school, you can't really like learn about Atlantis. If you say like, "Hey teacher, what about Atlantis? Is it real?" They laugh at you. So he's doing stuff you have to learn outside of school. It's like, oh, they don't teach you about a mortgage in school. Something you have to like learn in reality later on or whatever. Um, so there's all that stuff. Um, and so, from my perspective, I thought it was kind of funny because you know, it was like when you try to do something, like someone else already did it or something. So like stuff has already like been happening or whatever. LSD was popular in the 60s, and so it's been being used since then. So I mean, it was over here, you know, like 2016 when I tried it, and so you know, for the second time. So I was just thinking like, oh, it's, you know, like it made it feel like it was the 70s. Like it made me feel like a hippie, made me think like a hippie. Plus, I was smoking weed. I was combining LSD with weed, and you know, it was like that. Um, but I know like a lot of hippies don't really like weed that much. They're just like, oh, LSD, oh, mushrooms. But you don't get the full experience if you don't smoke weed on it. Like the most recent time I did mushrooms, um, it seemed kind of like a micro dose. Like I was walking around and stuff. Like 45 minutes to an hour passed, so you know, I was like, oh, this is it. I didn't have a scale, so I didn't weigh. So I was like, oh, it was one of these doses. Yeah, I'm just gonna like watch a movie or something, smoke some weed. So I was playing Street Fighter, and and after a few matches, I was like, oh, it's time to smoke some weed, listen to music or whatever. So I smoked some weed, and then it kicked in fully, and I was just like, wow, you know. And then I got the whole hour or two mushroom experience. It was psychedelic, but I tried DMT before that, and not literally before it, but like years ago and all that. I mean, it's in the book, but you know, the DMT, like the first time I tried like the first two times I tried DMT, it was like really psychedelic. It's one of the only words that can describe it. I mean, it was beautiful. It was psychedelic, you know, because there's like aliens and elves, and you know, it's just like that's psychedelic and all that. I mean, because I listened to Terence McKenna a lot before it, so I was prepared. I read Terence McKenna. I listened to the True Hallucinations audiobook. I read The Invisible Landscape and Food of the Gods. I read The Archaic Revival later. Kind of wish I read it earlier, but I couldn't find it, so I just got a PDF and read that. Um, I didn't really have a spare $20 to buy the book. I was like broke at the time or whatever, so I just did it that way, and so I was pretty much prepared for it. So I mean, I was like, oh, it's psychedelic, and so all that happened. So that was in 2014. I tried DMT again in 2016, um, and this was DMT that I extracted myself, and it was psychedelic as fuck. Like Terence McKenna mostly talked about mushrooms, and that's what I was into. And he also talked about DMT, and that's what I really wanted to try. In one of his videos, I'll look it up and post it or whatever. He says he talks about LSD and how he was an acid head before he tried DMT, so that made me want to try more acid. And I tried so much acid that people thought that I didn't like mushrooms or something. They tried to turn it into a competition, like, oh, mushrooms versus LSD. I like both, whatever. Like, it's not that complicated. I use LSD as like a stimulant. If you take too much, you'll pass out and go on a deep journey, a deep inner journey. I don't use it as a stimulant, but I mean, like I use it as a drug. Like it's not even really psychedelic. I mean, it's kind of psychedelic, but it's like not really psychedelic. It's just weird. Mushrooms are psychedelic. DMT is psychedelic. I mean, LSD is psychedelic, but it's like, you know, like it's just weird. Um, you know, basically also binds to dopamine receptors and not just serotonin, so it's kind of different. Like, it feels more like a stimulant, you know, it kind of feels like you're methed out a little bit, but when you do mushrooms, it feels more like you're just high as fuck. Like, it's more stony. And so, they're all similar to salvia as well, but salvia isn't considered psychedelic. I mean, it's a psychoactive plant, but it's not really psychedelic. So, um, you know, there was a video. I mean, in one of Joe Rogan's podcasts, he tried like he. It was a recent one. Um, where they were like trying to talk about weed, and then he was like, "Oh, isn't THC a psychedelic? I mean, an alkaloid, but it's really not." It was the one with Dan Aykroyd, right, or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, like, I thought I wrote about this or whatever already, but I mean, like, I'm fine with cannabis being considered a mild psychedelic because that's really what it is. I've gotten visuals off it. If your tolerance is so high that you don't even really get that high anymore from it, then um, I can see people being disappointed in the experience or whatever. So, in California, like, people like to smoke so much weed every day that it's like nothing really. But when it's your first or second time smoking weed, you tend to like freak out a little bit more, get paranoid or whatever. So that's a part of it. And no, it's not an alkaloid. Like, the THC is not an alkaloid. Um, you know, the alkaloids are considered components of plants, but they tend, like, there's a requirement where they have to have a nitrogen atom on it. There's no nitrogen on the THC molecule, so it really isn't considered an alkaloid. Um, you know, uh, Instead, the cannabinoids are more like oily substances. I mean, if you look at it, you can see that they're like oils. Like, the little crystals on the weed plant are not really like crystals. They're like oils in the form of crystals, like crystalline oils. They're not terpenes, but you know, it's kind of like that. So, um, similar thing with salvia. It's psychoactive, but there's no nitrogen atom on the salvinorin A molecule, so it's not considered psychedelic and it's not considered an alkaloid. Usually, all the psychedelics are alkaloids. Psilocybin isn't really that much of an alkaloid either, even though even though it fulfills the requirements. It's DMT, NN-DMT, or 4-phosphoryloxy NN-DMT. So it's just DMT with the phosphate ion group on the 4 carbon, or whatever you want to call it, a phosphoryloxy group. So it really is like DMT, but spread out over an hour or two. A little bit easier to remember and digest, so to speak. So when I tried mushrooms recently, it was pretty cool, psychedelic and all that, but like, the DMT was just way more insane. I don't know if it's because it was, if if that's because it was like more personal or something. Like whenever I tried DMT that I did not extract myself, and it was psychedelic. Like it was pretty typical DMT experiences. But when I extracted the DMT myself and smoked it, I mean, it was just insane. Like some of them were pretty typical experiences, like pretty typical psychedelic DMT experiences. You know, like spaceships and elves, um, and any contact and all that. But a couple of my experiences with that DMT was just insane. Like I couldn't. I mean, it was like Terrence McKenna said. Like, you know, it's hard to remember, hard to describe. Like it's like I came up with a model that describes it, or describes that experience. Like it's like a dream. Like most of the time, dreams are hard to remember. Like just because I said that, someone's gonna say like, "Oh, I remember dreams." Like you keep a dream journal, then you get better at remembering your dreams. But it's not like that. You know, it's like dreams on steroids, so to speak. Like it's different. It's not the same because you know you start off with melatonin and all that, and you know this is old shit. This is shit I was talking about years ago when no one cared, and people still don't care about the shit I talk about because no one like comments on any of the shit I post or anything. So I just stopped and just started shit posting, so to speak, because like no one cares anyway. Like no one does anything. They don't do anything. They just stare. I don't know. They're fucking weird. But so I talked about all this already. I don't feel like going over it again or even talking about it. Like I wrote about it, and I don't feel like talking about it because you know for those reasons I just said. So you know, I mean, I'll talk about some of it, but it's like you take melatonin and you fall asleep. Like melatonin is 5-methoxy and acetyltryptamine, which is similar to 5-methoxy DMT. 5-methoxy DMT is similar to DMT. Um, so it's like that. They say 5-methoxy. I mean, 5-methoxy DMT is more potent than DMT, presumably because of the methoxy group on the 5-carbon atom, and it's more intense. Like it's more potent. You only need 10 to 15 milligrams, whereas with DMT to get you know the full experience, you need like 50 to 65 milligrams. Um, if you take like 60 to 70 milligrams of 5-methoxy DMT, you can die from respiratory failure. So it's more potent. Um, you can't really die from regular DMT. I mean, like when I did it, it kind of seemed like I was gonna die. I mean, it seemed like I was dead, you know. But like that's that. Like it's related to that. It's related to sleep. It's related to dreams. Like sleeping is related to death and all that. This is shit I wrote about already. Like it feels weird talking about it again. I mean, like talking about it out loud. Like I wrote about this shit online. If I were to put it in a book, it would be weird and like short because like it feels like I talked about this already, and it also feels like no one gave a shit because I can't recall anyone doing anything like saying, "Oh, thanks for writing that," or you know, "Thanks for that," or whatever. So I'll use that as a kind of a segue to talk about Facebook or whatever, and you know all that shit. So um, let's see what else was I gonna talk about. You know, this is a guy on Facebook. There's a specific reason why I started this video. Yeah, that's another reason why I haven't been doing a lot of these because uh, I should really just focus on writing my book, which I kind of canceled. Um, this is what I talked about in previous videos, but I'll just give you like kind of an update on it. What I'm gonna do is just publish a book, a manuscript that I have. Some of the short stories that I did, you can call them beat novellas, probably are just gonna stay online. I'll try to start like a blog on some website and host them there. Um, I'll see if I could publish some of them. I mean, I know a lot of people don't care about literature or fiction, but I'll see if I can like make some extra money from it and reputation. Like, instead of just giving it away for free, I think it'll force some respect. Like, oh, he's published, or oh, whatever the fuck. So I'll do that, and then the manuscript I have is from 2016. It's not recent, but I put some recent stuff in there. I can't really see myself finishing it because various reasons. Lack of privacy. I'd rather have privacy than, retards looking constantly over my back and shit, trying to help or whatever when they're really not. So I haven't really touched a keyboard in a long time because I'm not gonna do it. Like, I'm not gonna do it. I wrote about it in the intro to it. I posted it online for free, but I know no one really looked at it because they're still expecting something else has happened already, like twice. Where I post something and they think it's something else or whatever. Like, no, man, it's not really how it works. They're just always waiting for the next thing. So, I just thought, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it this way and do that. So there's the one, and the other one's unfinished. That's the one I really want to finish and dive deep into, or delve into deeper. But again, I can't see myself doing it here. I would rather do it, like in a cabin in the woods alone or whatever, or at least in a better environment. It's just weird. I don't like all the attention. It's just weird and stupid. It's retarded. Like, most of these people are retarded who are doing this shit. Like, why are they paying so much attention to me? I mean, it's obvious. Like, they eat stuff. Like, that's all they do is eat. Like, oh, I'm gonna eat that, or oh, I eat you, and shit like that. It's stupid. If any of these fucking faggots get near me in real life, like, I'm gonna like sock the shit out of them. Like, that's what they're doing. Like, they're provoking a fight. A lot of these fags need to get socked in the fucking mouth. It's pretty simple. I mean, I'll get a brick and like smash it through someone's fucking car window. Like, if that helps, like, whatever. So, it's all like shit like that, and then it's just stupid. So I don't want to have to like do it with this shit in mind. Like, their enemies is what they're trying to make me realize. Like, it's just stupid. So another reason why I canceled it and why I'm not gonna finish. Well, see, I'm not gonna finish the first manuscript because the fucking retard on Facebook who's running the California Psychedelic Society page kind of just sabotaged it. I mean, first of all, I was on Goodreads because, like, the first thing I did was I had a piece of paper and I wrote books down that I wanted to buy and read. Eventually, I just made a Goodreads account so I could keep track of it that way. Because I've always been a book person. I left my profile public and all hell broke loose. So I'm not gonna do it. It's stupid. The only way I'm gonna do it is if like someone pays me, so I could like rent like a fucking hotel or like a cabin somewhere. Like I'm not gonna do it here, or I'm not gonna do it when people are here. I have to wait until my neighbors leave so I could write, because I'm not gonna do it when they're here. Um, it's pretty simple. I'm not a faggot. Like I'm not one of these like people who are like a people person. Like like I'm not a fucking goofball. I'm not one of these retards. My IQ is way too high for that. I'm surrounded by morons. Um, that has to be the only explanation. um, so, one thing that happened is that, I wasn't trying to be like Manny. I know, like, on Goodreads, there's like a man named Manny there who, read a lot of books, and you see him a lot. Um, I wasn't really trying to do that, but that's like where my interests went. Um, People like to think I did it first, so it's like, yeah, sure. I mean, it was my idea. It's like, I'll do that. So I did it. I ran out of time. I'll just say it now. Like I don't review a lot of books. I don't have a rubric or any criteria. I just kind of do it. So then the whole LSD thing happened, and like that's what it is. People, like, there became a limit. Like there was a thing where it's like, oh, so and so already did it. Call it Simpsons did it or whatever. Bart did it, whatever. But no, because too much time passed, and then like I see what really happened. Like no, like I never said I was that guy. Um, but it kind of happened that way where um, people just want to believe, like the best. Like, oh yeah, he did it already. I mean, like I read a lot, but um, I never agreed to write shit for free. I would rather have my services hired. There's that faggot on Facebook who is doing that shit. So, I mean, he tried to take it into his own hands and do it. He's gonna get his ass beat. I hope we meet so I can sock him in the fucking mouth. You know? That's it. See what he does after that. See how much he wants to write after that, or see how much he wants to try to appear intelligent after that. Until then, I'm not doing shit. Like, I'm not writing shit until he gets his ass beat, whether I do it or someone else does. And then a lot of these fucking faggots are gonna try to say, like, oh, I'll write the book. Like, I had a specific idea of what to write, but it was sabotaged. It could be a respect thing. Like, these fucking people are just stupid and weird. So I'm not gonna do it. Really, like, it's pretty simple. Like, these fucking people are stupid. Like, they really are. Especially the guy who assaulted my mouth with a deadly weapon and cracked my tooth. So I actually did LSD when my tooth was broken, and it revealed a lot of information to me. See, because I was going to write a book, but I'm not really going to now. I'll publish what I have and see what that does, but, it's not the book that I was going to, like, what I'm going to publish is not what I was going to write. Like, that's the next book that I was going to write. It's not what I have now, if that makes sense to you. Like, that's not really how it works. So I was going to do a little bit more research and just do it that way. This is California. I'm not homophobic, but it is what it is. I grew up in my teenagers reading Philip K. Dick. Like, I don't give a shit about A Scanner Darkly. It wasn't my favorite Philip K. Dick book, but That's what my mindset is like. Um, this dude on Facebook can't write for shit. He's a faggot. I don't like his style. Um, so unfortunately, something like that happened to me. I had a style, like I've been writing shit online here and there. You could read shit there, but some of the shit I did. That's why in the beginning of this video I said I wish I never did those books that I did as jokes or as practical jokes or a prank, because I could imagine that getting annoying. That's not, you know, how I write or anything. It actually took a lot of effort to produce that. Whereas any other normal style of writing is pretty easy to do. Reading a book feels nice to my brain, as I absorb the information. I don't like reading online shit. It's stupid. Like, it doesn't feel good. Like, reading a physical print book, not, you know, printed, like print as in the industry, not like a printed book, but like print, like reading print um, feels a lot better than reading shit online, because my fucking eyeballs are like staring at a screen, staring at blue light all day, and it doesn't feel good. Like, my eyeballs feel like shit. There's been studies that show that all that blue light isn't good, especially before sleep or whatever. So they, say don't look at blue light an hour before bed or whatever. That's a part of it. So it's all stuff like that. So these are just like plans that I have. The other unfinished manuscript I have, which is 29 pages so far, also, this is kind of just the beginning, kind of just getting started, but I have like a drive to share with people, but it like doesn't really work that way. Like, I would share more stuff online, but people don't do anything. Like, they don't comment on it, and they don't like anything, they don't share anything. They just like hair. Like, when I go on their profile, they're just like staring, like they're taking selfies, and they're just like looking and like at the camera, and they're just like staring. Like, okay, that's not really what I'm doing. It seems like I'm the only person who read Kerouac or On the Road, because no one else like does shit. Like, they don't talk. Like, I was always shy growing up and introvert. It got me nowhere. Like, there have been girls who like fucked other dudes just because I didn't talk. And now whenever I talk, these bitches try to like fuck dudes who don't talk. So it doesn't make sense. It's a conspiracy. It's just the opposite. So it's like, okay, I won't talk. It's like, hey, there's a cute girl, I won't talk. But then it's like, wait, if I want to fuck her, I have to talk. So I'll try to talk, but then she's like, oh, you talked. I only like dudes who don't talk. It's like, how the fuck? It's like, okay, so like you just rape someone. Like, you don't need like permit. Like, you don't need consent anymore. You just like rape someone. It's like, yeah, it's not politically correct. Like, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense in that it's like not logical, but so, like I said, it's basically a conspiracy, because they just do the opposite of whatever I do. I wrote about this already. I'll talk about it more, whatever, but that's what it is. And yeah, that's what some of the psychedelic trips revealed to me. A lot these people don't do psychedelics. Like, I'm one of the few people who do. So then they use that. They try to say like, oh, well, you're crazy. Like, we don't need it. All we need is coffee and caffeine. Like, we don't need mushrooms. We don't need LSD. We don't need weed. Like, I'll smoke some weed, and then people are like, oh, he doesn't do mushrooms or LSD because he's smoking weed. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's not a fucking competition. Like, I smoke weed, I do mushrooms, I do LSD, I smoke DMT. It's pretty simple. These people don't know how it works. They didn't read Philip K. Dick. They didn't read Terrence McKenna. They didn't listen to Terrence McKenna. I mean, they do now probably, but I've been listening to Terrence McKenna and reading his books since 2010 or 2011. I read 2012. Excuse me, I just ate something about an hour ago. But I mean, like, yeah, I also don't have any windows open, so it's kind of stuffy in here because of the coronavirus. So I'm trying to keep it closed. But like, I read 2012 and Breaking Open the Head in 2011. After I read Daniel Pinchbeck, like while I was reading Daniel Pinchbeck, I picked up P. Cal and some Terrence McKenna stuff. I watched Fear Factor growing up in the 5th grade, and then after I read, like when I was reading 2012, I googled Terrence McKenna and DMT. That's when that started in 2011. I mean, I was always interested in mushrooms before that, but because I grew up playing Super Mario Bros. But you know, it was like, yeah, I grew up playing Super Mario Bros. So arguably, trying mushrooms was always something that I was gonna do. Like, I read magazines and it's like, oh, the mushroom that Mario eats is real, but it's not the psychedelic one, it's a different one, and all that. So that was always something on my mind. I always wanted to know what it was like. You know, people say like, oh, you know, man saw a dragon on LSD. You know, I mean, I was always interested in like neuroscience, well, in perception. I mean, I'm not trying to copy Hamilton Morris at all. Like I said, I started off with Daniel Pinchbeck in 2011. Vice became popular in like 2013. Someone told me about Hamilton Morris, but like I was already kind of doing that. I was in community college at the time, but it was like, I mean, I wasn't going to change my major to neuroscience just because of Hamilton Morris, but you see, my shit got kind of fucked up because I only did 1 year of high school before my parents took me out and I had to finish at home school. So I only did freshman year at a regular high school, and then, you know, my mom's always been weird. She took me out and I had to finish at home school. So I wasn't even really able to take chemistry in high school. Most people took chemistry in high school. I had to wait till college to take it. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking by doing that. I mean, at one point they gave me the chance to go back to a regular high school. They just took me out the one that I went to because I got in a fight. That's when some fucking retard punched me and broke my tooth. The first time, is, you know, he looked like he was a member of the KKK, and it was a cheap shot. We both got suspended for a week. I didn't do shit but get my ass beat, my fucking tooth knocked out, and I still got suspended. Nothing happened to him. So when I came back, a bunch of people tried to form a group and jump him. They ran over. Someone knocked him on the ground. He tried to kick me, but I grabbed his foot. And we were just staring at each other. I was about to like stomp his head, but a bitch cop came and broke the fight up, and then I got suspended again. And then after that year of high school, parents took me out and I had to go to homeschool. I didn't like it because, I mean, it just always seemed like my mom was trying to like not so much protect me from girls, but like get me away from them. So I didn't want to leave that school for whatever reason. I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, yeah, who knows how much luck I would have had with girls there after that fight, but you know, I just went to homeschool, and then after that, it sucked. I had an attitude, and they tried to put me, they were like, hey, there's some other school called New Tech School that you could go to if you want. But I was trying to prove a point, so I was like, fuck that. No. Like, you brought me into the situation, you finish it. So I just did homeschool. Later on, I regretted it. I was like, yeah, I probably should have took that chance to go to that school instead of finishing at the shitty fucking homeschool program. So that sucked. So I mean, that was just extra incentive to self educate myself. I just started reading a lot of books to compensate almost, if that makes sense. So all things considered, I did that. Like, I tried to learn a lot about chemistry and physics on my own still. I mean, I was always into physics since I was a kid, but I had to self teach myself, um, which is better than nothing. So I finally was able to take chemistry at community college because it wasn't really like, I didn't take it freshman year of high school. So that sucked for me, but I made it work. Um, um, and so it was kind of like that, but um, so yeah, no. Well, yeah. Uh, so we watched Fear Factor in the fifth grade, but when I was reading 2011, I mean 2012, he kept mentioning Terence McKenna as a philosopher and psychonaut and all that, and you know Shulgin and all that. So I googled Shulgin and got his book. I only got P-Cal because I wanted to read it. I got T-Cal later, whatever. So and then I googled Terence McKenna, Terence and Dennis McKenna, and then got their books. He was talking about DMT. I was like, what the fuck is that? It's like mushrooms and all that. This was back then. That's what got me started. And then there's a video of Joe Rogan talking about DMT, and I was like, oh, Joe Rogan, isn't that the guy from Fear Factor? So I watched the video, and that's when all that started. So I always wanted to do that. I didn't tell anyone this recent shit, which I fell for. They made me talk. I regret talking because nothing happened. Um, they just wanted to know. They're just stealing information from me. That's why I'm saying I want to write a book so I can sell it, because I'm tired of giving shit away for free. Like, nothing happens. You know, they're. I hate how they act. They're just trying to, like. I just hate it. Like, they're just, trying to look intelligent. They're trying to appear intelligent. Like, they want all this information as if it makes them intelligent. Like, it doesn't. They're still stupid. Um, so this faggot on Facebook is not doing anything else. Like, he can't do anything else. He's just being annoying as fuck and racist. I can't wait to kick his ass. Um, that's the only way he'll slow his roll. Um, and things of that nature. So, it's kind of like sorry, not sorry. Like, these people are like trying to like gamble for leverage or some shit. They're trying to like negotiate stances, or whatever. So I'll segue into a different topic or a related topic. I'm tired of these bitches who keep saying like, oh, this is my house, or like, oh, you're in my house, this is my territory, whatever. No, it's not. Um, you know, like after my DMT experiences, I, had to explain it somehow, call it God, whatever, call it fairy. That's what it is. These bitches keep like trying to like say like, oh, I'm a fairy or what. Like that was the funniest shit ever. When like after I did DMT, it was fairy. I'll leave it there for now. Talk about it more later. And then when I was doing LSD and mushrooms, I was like, oh yeah, like I was comparing it to my DMT experiences, which I basically did first. Um, I tried low doses of LSD and mushrooms first before DMT, and then I did more LSD and mushrooms and DMT. And like when I do LSD and mushrooms, I just compare it to DMT, and you know, it was like more beautiful than anything. It was psychedelic as fuck, and it was really weird. Like it smelled like DMT, and it was DMT, but it was like different from the other DMT experiences that I've had, in that it was like completely something else, and that's what psychedelics promised. You know, they promised to be mysterious. They promised to be challenging and thought provoking. You know, the promise was that it was hard or difficult to understand, like because it was transcendent, and the whole thing. Like it, there's a lot of support for it in writing. Like, you know, I read all the shit. That's what it was. Like, you're mad at me because you didn't read it. You're mad at me because I'm not sharing information. You know, it was a UFO. It was a fairy. You know, the whole thing. Like, fairy could be a fairy. Fairy spelled Faerie. You know, could be a land, or it could be just like a thing of fairy. Like, is what it is. These people aren't educated on it. So I'm tired of these bitches trying to say like, oh, this is my house, or oh, you're invading my subject. Like, no, you're a bitch. Shut the fuck up. You know, like, stop. So like, you know, like I'm over here doing like LSD, and then it's like, oh, fairy. Like these people don't know that I'm comparing it to DMT. You know, shit just like comes down and freaks you the fuck out. And you know, so like they keep saying shit like, oh, we could do better. Like, oh, I could be better at it than you. I could talk about it better than. No, you can't. Like that's the fucking point. That's what I'm trying to say. Like that's what it is. The only downside to that is that makes people want to try it more. I'm not trying to advertise it. Like I'm not trying to say that these people should do it. So that sucks because it's like my main subject almost, but if I talk about it, that gets people curious. My goal is to actually make less people do it. But when I talk about it, it makes them want to do it. So I try not to talk about it, but I kind of have to talk about it. So it kind of sucks for me there. You know, it is just stupid, really all around. It's retarded, but that sucks. So another thing I want to talk about is another joke that I made, which is from Joel David Baxt's book on DMT, the Jerusalem Stone of Consciousness, which no one took serious. It makes complete sense to me, but I tried to be funny talking about it, you know, because it's like you have a book, and I think these people were thinking that I was struggling trying to talk about it, you know. Some of these people who do psychedelic art try or whatever, but the only thing I immediately accepted, and then immediately after that was kind of skeptical, was that it was impossible to do anything. Like, you can't describe it, you can't paint it. Like some of these people who are doing the psychedelic art they're kind of close, but they're also kind of not. Like when I extracted my own DMT and smoked it, like it was something else, you know, which was the promise. You know, I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, I hope I see another spaceship. I hope it's another alien. I mean, another fairy or elves or some weird entity. You know, a man in a full body spandex suit or something like that, which are elves and aliens and all that. So this is but the what I have planned for the next manuscript is I'm gonna annotate my DMT experiences. In the first manuscript, I just put it there with no commentary or anything. But in the next manuscript that I'm drafting, I'm gonna add commentary and annotations to it. I'll talk about some of it, but I'm gonna write it there to make it make more sense. So it turns into serious shit because it doesn't seem to matter like who's doing it as far as the people goes. Meaning, the Mexicans have always been doing mushrooms and the cactus and LSA and DMT and ayahuasca and all that. But the Jews also tried to claim a stake with it. That's what Joel David Baxt's books are about. Kabbalah and God. So I was saying, call it what you want, call it God. Like, not everyone, I don't think, gets to that level. When I did DMT that time, I really thought I was gonna die. Like, I did it, my vision started to go dark, and I was like, oh shit, what have I done? Yeah, it's like Terrence McKenna said, it's like, oh, I really did it this time. That's what it was like. Like, my eyes were open, but everything started to turn dark, which, I mean, how else does that happen? Like, when does that happen? It's like the lights are going out. I was like, no, come on, like, don't do that. Like, am I dying? Or, like, you have no choice. Like, it gets hard to breathe. It feels like that's another reason why I say life is about breathing air. It's not just to try to be funny, but that happens. Start to panic, like everything like turns reddish, and then next thing I know, I'm passed out on the ground and I'm staring at this thing, and it's been like 5 to 10 minutes, and I've been staring at it, and it's been like changing, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's the most beautiful thing that could be imagined. Taken in and all that. So it gets kind of complicated because like people think like when you do it, you're like talking to some entity and they're telling you this, telling you that. It's kind of like that, but it's more about the mind. Like sometimes I hear the tearing sound and all that. So it's more like everything at once. Like it kind of assaults your senses all at once. Like, because what it was like, the secrets of reality and the universe were being revealed to me through this thing, this type of visible language, but it's like there's nothing in this life, like in this reality, that's akin to it, really. Like, you can't do it. Like, if someone asked me to draw a picture of what I saw during that particular breakthrough DMT experience, like, it's like, what the what's wrong with you? Like, why would you ask that? Like, I wouldn't know where to start. Like, it was like this kind of like that, and it was like doing this and like going like that, and like, you can't do it. Like, you can't get a paper and like draw it. You can't paint it. Like, there's a bunch of stuff like it was going like this and doing that. So I'm under the impression like that's what the Bible is for and other stuff like that and Kabbalah, because this is when it gets creepy. This is when LSD comes into play, because LSD is pretty similar to DMT. It's kind of a conspiracy or whatever, but like when I say you can't do it, like, you have to remember some stuff. Like, one thing I want you to remember is the conspiracy part. Like, people just do the opposite. It's as if people are mad that my skin is not white. You know, they're like, why are you brown? Why aren't you white? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, is it like a karma thing? Like stop. I'm gonna stop you right there. So, like, I'll say like, man, I'm hungry, and then someone will say, well, I'm not hungry, as if that's better or something, like, whatever. So it's like that. Like, when I say it can't be done, someone's gonna say like, oh, yeah, it can. It can be done. But no, it really can't. See, that's a person who just wants to do it. They want to smoke weed, they want to do mushrooms, LSD, DMT, but like, you can't. Like, they're asleep. Like, do they want to be woken up? Like, some people don't even want to be waken up. They want to remain sheep. They want to remain asleep, and all that. So it's kind of sad. People try to abuse language and all that. Uh, there's a lot of nuance to it. Like, when I say I can't do it, I mean, like, I can do it, but it'll be like done poorly. So I'll say I can do it, but like, I can't do it that well. Like, I'm not. Yeah, that's the difference. Like, I did it. A lot of these people have not done it. So that's the fucking difference. Um, they don't know. Like, I know, and they don't know what it's like. You know, um, you know, like, this thing was constantly changing and all that. It was like shapes that don't exist here. It was like geometry. Like, I'm not gonna say it was anything like the sacred geometry thing. It was beyond that. Like, it was beyond sacred geometry. It transcended that. It transcended everything. Like, there were like colors that don't exist here, like colors you can't perceive here, and shapes you can't draw, or anything, like shapes and geometry that doesn't exist here in this reality, and colors that you can't conceive of here. Like, one good way of saying it that I came up with is that, since people tend to be interested in that kind of thing, I sometimes say it was truly alien, even in connotations you can't comprehend unless you've not only done it before but are currently there doing it. Like, you can't really think of it unless you like smoked it a minute ago and are going through it now. But once it's over, it's like a dream. Like, it fades quick, and you're like, fuck, I can't remember. Like, I remembered it, but it's like a dream. Like, you gotta hurry up and write it down. You gotta hurry up and draw it. It's like a fucking dream. Like, it's hard to remember for most people. I mean, it's not exactly like a dream. Like, it's harder to remember than a dream. For one, because it's shit that doesn't exist here. Like, when you dream, it's mostly normal shit. I mean, you might be able to fly, or there might be like a humanoid monster guy or something. Like, I've had dreams with like weird shapes, but it was nothing like DMT. DMT was way more insane. Mushrooms were way more insane. I've had dreams with, red Frankenstein men, but that was nothing compared to the entities I've seen on DMT. Like, dreams are cool, nothing against dreams, but DMT and psychedelics are just way more insane. LSD is pretty cool, but it's like, LSD is more self-exploratory than mushrooms or DMT, but I like lower doses of LSD still, because I've done DMT before, and it's insane. Um, you know, so like there's stuff like that. So one thing Joel David Basked said in his book is that, Kabbalah has, and I didn't really write about this on Goodreads. I didn't review it in this way. I was gonna write a book with all my thoughts on the books I read. Like I was gonna review every book in the book that I was writing, but I'm not going to anymore because that has been sabotaged. Like all these people ruined it with what they're doing. They just ruined it for me. I lost. Like I was excited at first, but I lost the excitation for it. Um, but anyway, and he's in the DMT Spirit Molecule documentary. So I read some of his books, and you know, that's what he says. Like, Kabbalah has been secret until recently. Um, why? Maybe time's running out. That's what the prophecy kind of said. We're approaching the age of the Messiah or Mashiach. Um, but in his book, The Jerusalem Stone of Consciousness, which Daniel Pinchbeck originally posted, and then I went ahead and got it and read it. He's Kabbalah has been secret until recently, and then he says now it's something that's open to anyone interested in giving it a shot. Meaning the actual Kabbalah, like the Talmud, the Torah, like read it, study it. He's not saying you can like smoke as much weed as you want or do DMT or ayahuasca. He's saying you can study the ancient scriptures and texts that describe God. So, that I'll, yeah, I'll talk about that again. Like that's what I think the Bible is. It's all like it's not literal. Like no one is a fundamentalist Christian. Since it's hard to describe for anyone. I mean, some of it is easy to describe. I could say like, oh, I done DMT and there's an alien. It was like this. It was like that. Whatever. That's what it is. I've been talking about it for a long time. No one cares for obvious reasons. But I went deep. Like I must have went really, really deep with it because it was just different. Like after that, I've tried other DMT and it was regular DMT. Like it wasn't like what happened. So, you know, that changed me in that way. Um, People keep saying like, "Oh, that's not it. I thought it was gonna be like an alien or an elf." Like, yeah, I just said I did it before and it was like that. But there's other ways it could be too. Like, it was DMT. That's kind of what I preferred. I mean, I like the fun ones when there's like an alien or a creature and they could look at you and acknowledge you and stuff, and there'll be like a city in the background and or like a factory and stuff like that. But like those are pretty cool too. But they're kind of like the waiting room experiences or anything like that. But I've had DMT experiences where it's just been something else entirely. Call it what you want, call it God, call it fairy. In King Arthur stuff, there's a lot of heavy Christian tones and heavy religious overtones. There's fairies in King Arthur books. LSD is pretty good, but for example, there's Ezekiel in the Bible where he saw the four-headed beast come down from heaven or the skies, and I think that's a metaphor for DMT and all that. You know, you could be reasonably certain that they were smoking DMT back then, or that they're smoking weed back then. You know, it's a metaphor. It's not literal. In this case, I think Ezekiel means like 4 different DMT experiences. I've done, you know, I have 4 particular, like I've done it more than that, but there are 4 particular ones that were just bizarre. Um, Talk about that more later, I guess. Um, Stuff like that. So you know, there's Joseph and all that, and it's all code. Like it's not literal. I like books anyway. The Bible's a good book to read. Like you could read Sherlock Holmes. You could read, you know, this. You could read that. Lord of the Rings. Whatever. I don't know why people are so averse to reading the Bible. I mean, you claim to like literature. You claim to like reading, and yet you want to avoid that book. Like, okay, that makes sense. You know, um, take it that way. Take it that far. People just don't listen. They're just ignoring shit. I said everything already. They're just mad at work ethic, I guess, and performance. So that's like the only thing preventing them from seeing the truth. Like you got to meet eye to eye or whatever. Um, so that's not really what I meant. Online, I said that. I just repeated what Joel David Bass said in his book about that, and people took it to mean that they could also smoke DMT or something, but that's not what I meant. It was kind of a joke. Um, I just tried to do that. I shouldn't have even said that, but I was just trying to trick them or whatever. But it didn't really work because they just saw the positive in it and tried to, you know, twist it that way. But so again, I shouldn't have even really said that, I guess, knowing that they would do that. That's one thing. Another thing I want to talk about is again the metaphors. People aren't really that well read up on Bible shit. So, you know, one concept of Kabbalah is the Merkaba, which means spirit vehicle. There's different stuff like in Ezekiel. I've written about this already. You can read it online. I don't really feel like talking about it again. But, you know, there are different concepts. The cherubim or cherubim, B and V are kind of interchangeable. I'll call it cherubim. And there's the Ophanim, which can be taken to be entities. I like if you read the like not the Bible, but it's in like Kabbalistic interpretations of the Bible, but it's not like the stuff isn't always found in the Bible. It's sometimes found in the ancient Jewish texts by the Talmudic sage mystics and stuff like that. The Sifra Disney Yuda, different books. There's the Gaon of Vilna, who wrote a lot. He was really smart, supposedly. He knew what he was talking about. Like, yeah, that's the way I interpreted it. But these people aren't listening because they're like, oh, you know, you can't write a book. You have to write a book and all that, prove it, whatever. So it's pretty stupid. But I just don't agree with these conditions. Like, you know, I don't need that much help. Like people are always trying to take credit for something or whatever. So you know, the cherubim are what guard the gates. They guard the throne. If you don't break through on DMT, you could see something like that. Like I don't always like breaking through because I've done it before and it's kind of uncomfortable. whatever. It's pretty cool, but like I've done it before to the point where I've seen that. Like I would close my eyes and it was like a low dose so you don't break through, but I've seen portals and then I've seen two entities guarding a portal in the middle. They were like Egyptian birdmen. Like they were men who had bird heads and staffs, and everything was like blue, and there were different portals in the background, and there was like a main portal. It wasn't exactly in the middle, but it was like moving over to the side, and there was like a fucking portal that was like swirling blue energy, and there were two cherubim. It must have been like they were Egyptian birdmen. Like they were men who were like brown, and they were wearing like white skirts, and they had bird heads, and they were like looking at me. But I got the feeling that the dose wasn't high enough, so I didn't break through. I just opened my eyes again. There were two people there I was hanging out with at the time, and um, it was like that. It was like my 25th time smoking DMT or whatever, so I was pretty familiar with it, and I was like, oh, I didn't break through, man. Like shit, you know. But, you know, the Bible talks about that already. Like people are obsessed with like stuff keeps getting older or whatever, but it was like that. I just left it at that for that time. Like I had broken through recently. I mean, I don't think you really break through every time. It's impossible. I understand the laws of physics on a level that no one else does because I've done LSD and mushrooms and DMT, and I've studied physics in college, um, like at university, and self-taught. Like I've read books no one else has read, and I've done math no one else has done. So I'm unique in that way. And these people just keep trying to copy me, but you can tell they're full of shit. And like a lot of these people are just ugly, and they like that's part of the conspiracy too. I've talked about it somewhere else. Talk about it probably in the next video or in this one if there's enough time. So stuff like that. These people need like a written story to understand what's going on. Like these people want to like read every book that I read just so they can like comprehend it. But even then, it's not all about reading books. You need like the life experience. So they're all like full of shit basically. You know, the Ophanim are just other entities, I suppose, but it's usually said that the cherubim are guarding the gates. Sometimes on DMT I've just broken straight through, which I've described earlier. Like that's what it was. Um, there has been DMT that I've tried that I didn't extract, and you know, there'd be like a geometrical shape. But I've seen crazier. Like on the DMT that I've extracted myself and smoked, like it was insane. Like it was something else entirely, which is what's typically promised. I mean, what's promised is that, you know, you can see an alien or a spaceship or an elf and it's psychedelic. Like, on mushrooms, it's pretty weird too. Like, oh, it's pretty weird. How could I describe it? You know, it's like a spaceship, like a machine, and, you know, there's people there already, like men spectating and stuff. But, like, on DMT, it was just it's weird. Like, the mushrooms were weird, but the DMT was beautiful. You know, like, I was hearing it, and I was seeing it, and like, I think that's what I want to emphasize. Is that like I still kind of hear the sound. Like when I broke through, it's like the sound and everything, and like it's still kind of there. Like it hasn't went away. And this was in 2016. You know, I've broken through multiple times, and like you could like, I still have the impression of it. Um, You just can't do it. I mean, it could be done, but done poorly or whatever. Like these people just don't get it. But that's what it was. Um, uh, um, so the Merkaba usually means like spirit vehicle. In Ezekiel, like it means like not just a vehicle, you know, like a carriage to get you from point A to point B. Like these people are mad because I'm using code words and not like being literal or like painting a picture. I don't literally mean I saw a carriage or anything. Or when you see like ancient art and there's like a sled or a carriage, it's not literal. Like a Merkaba means a spirit vehicle. Like you go further in your spirituality. Um, it's not literally a carriage like drawn by horses or anything like that. That's just it's code to keep the ignorant out. But nowadays, like it's different because people have like people feel like they deserve to know. So that's what the ancient code was. Like, you know, I think it's a mistake to let all these people have access to it. Um, but it is what it is, and that's California slang. Um, like that's what it is. So like these people like they just further use that as their excuse that I don't like know. But I mean you got to know that like it's like that's what it is. Like people just always try to advance stuff or whatever, but we'll see what happens now from that. But it was pretty spot on like that. Really, because of that, you could say my level of spirituality is just advanced more than the average person because it's a Merkaba. Um, no, it wasn't literally like a carriage or anything drawn by uh, horses or anything like that. But people are like unauthorized people are gonna try to come up with like a new way of describing it or something or whatever. But you know, it's already been done basically. Um, so I think they just missed that detail. Like, yeah, it's code words to keep the uninitiated out and all that. Um, I'm not going to say much about the Illuminati or Freemasonry right now, maybe in the next video. Um, so I did all that DMT before I started doing a bunch of acid. Um, I did all the DMT and mushrooms before I did the acid. People thought I was crazy because of that book I wrote, but it was really just a tribute to the crazy white forever. Um, and stuff like that. I don't like Michael Pollan at all, or Teo Lin. They suck. Um, I don't care about their perspectives at all. They're full of shit. They're bullshitters. Um, they suck. Uh, but this fag on Facebook is the worst. You know, like it can't get any more worse than that. It's like they're all just competing for shit. So I could easily tell that the DMT that I've done went a lot deeper than whatever the fuck they think they're on. Any other mushroom trips or DMT trips, mine went further. I actually extracted my own DMT and used it. Nothing can go further than that. I think it'd be insane to see if you could like synthesize your own LSD and try it and see what it's like. Like that would be pretty fucking crazy. Growing your own mushrooms is cool. I used to find my own mushrooms. Um, I haven't had the privacy to grow my own mushrooms yet. I just used to find my own mushrooms. I've been given mushrooms a few times before, but I used to just find my own mushrooms, usually just cyanescens. Cyanescens are said to be more potent than cubensis, even though they're smaller. Like, people think just because they're smaller, they're like not as potent or whatever. But like any like guide you see says cyanescens are pretty potent. Cyanescens and aleni are like more potent than cubensis. Um, they have like more psilocybin in them, which converts to psilocin. But yeah, it's been like that. But like, I don't need Teolin's book or Michael Pollan's shitty book. Fuck them. So forget them. They suck. Or they're lame. Um, these people are just like, oh, why don't you just write a book like that? Or, I mean, why don't they do like whenever like I read? I don't just read nonfiction. I read a lot of literature. Whenever I read, a book, there's like a poem in it. You could read The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, King Arthur, and there's like poems. They rhyme. They're kind of having fun. Like these fucking people don't do it. Like they suck. Like what are they? Just white people? Like they have nothing. Like they're just boring as shit. Like they suck. Um, I read a lot of King Arthur growing up, and like their poems, like they rhyme. So some of the writing, I like when I do LSD, it reminds me of that. Like I can't help but like try to rhyme. Like it just does it. It's like I can't stop. Fuck. Like I'm not really trying to do it on purpose. It just like does it, and like can't really control it. It's like whatever. I'll just rhyme. I guess I'll just wait till it ends. People don't know what it's like. All these people do is drink. Kerouac drank a lot, whatever. So it's all connected. LSD is pretty good. I like mushrooms too. Um, yeah, mushrooms are pretty good for it. I don't think you don't get the full experience if you don't smoke weed on it. I'm not sure why these people are like tripping off weed. Like, hey, dude, your choice, whatever. Like people just think I just smoke weed or whatever. Like, I don't know, it's nonsense. Like whenever you like, I did mushrooms the other day and like I smoked weed and then like it was like I just felt like kind of creeped out or whatever. Um, but then I smoked weed and then like I felt kind of like a shock. It was like or whatever, and then like it kind of kicked in. Like I would close my eyes and then I would start to see it. Like it would do it again. Like there's this one dose of mushrooms that I did where it was just um, like it looked kind of like a bonus stage from Sonic 3 or whatever. Like I mean, not really, but kind of reminded me of that. Like it was just like constantly. I mean, like the way I described it at first, but it was like a '90s dance rave party in my eyelids. Like it just kept changing, and it was like it had a beat and everything and a pulse, and it was just different every time I would look. But I was like, fuck, like I had to go somewhere because I had some overdue library books that were due that day, and I was like, shit, I gotta like return these library books. But I was on mushrooms, and then like every time I would close my eyes, like the patterns would be changing, but I was like, oh no, I have to run some errands, so I couldn't like stay there staring at it the whole time. I had to like leave and go outside and like do something. So like couldn't do anything. I mean, you couldn't focus on that. So it was kind of like LSD, where it's like I have racing thoughts and all this stuff. It's like, oh, I gotta like write some of these ideas down before it's too late and I forget. But then it's like, oh, I'm kind of bored. I'm gonna go outside and like hang out and like talk to someone. Like it's like, oh, I gotta write. Oh, that's a good idea. I should write it down. But it's like, oh, I feel like talking to someone. It's like, oh, maybe like like I'd see like a hot chick, but like that's what sucks about it. It's like, oh shit, like that's why I stopped doing it for a while. And mushrooms, because whenever I do it, someone's like, "Oh, don't you have a girlfriend or whatever?" But like, they don't do anything. They just like stare. It's pretty stupid. Like that, that's where the conspiracy part comes in. So like, people like keep saying like, "Do mushroom, do LSD." It's like, no, because I know what's gonna happen. Like what always happens is gonna happen. So it's like I gotta. So I tried to get a girlfriend, but it didn't work. So it's I was like, I'm not gonna do mushrooms or LSD until I get a girlfriend because I'm tired of this shit. And then you know, so okay, it's BS. Um, like I was on LSD once, and then I saw this hot chick. I mean, she was like, I almost fell in love at first sight, but she didn't do anything. Like she wasn't. I tried to talk to her, like, hey, but she wouldn't say anything, and I tried to like touch her or something, but like nothing would happen. And then I was just walking with her, and then she went home, and then there was a guy there, and I was like, oh shit! So I just ran away. I didn't talk to them after that, but they lived like down the street from me, so every now and then I would like go over there. Like I was getting acid, and then whenever I would do acid, I was like, oh, what about her? I'm gonna try to like fuck her or something. And then like whenever I would be on acid, I would go over there, but I would never. I only saw her like one other time. Whenever I would go there, like the guy would be out there like mowing the lawn or something, but like they wouldn't be out there, or she wouldn't be out there. Like I only saw her that one time, and then I saw her again like later, like I don't know, like a month later, like not the next time I went there, but like the next few times like, I went there, and she was inside staring out the window. I was like, I didn't know what to do. It's like, should I knock on the door or what? So it didn't work out. But it's like that every time. It's like I just want a mild experience. I'm just gonna smoke weed for a little bit and finish writing my book. And then someone's gonna say, "Do acid, do mushrooms." It's like no, because it's gonna show that I'm in hell. That's one way of looking at it. That's LSD. Um, so I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do anything until I get a girlfriend, but that's impossible. So I still don't have one. It's like they only care about the work you do and shit like that. So um, it's pretty bonkers. It's insane. Um, and yeah, I mean, like it's kind of like that. And people just get angry. Like I see all these dudes getting angry. They're like, "Oh, I hate you" and shit. And like, damn, like it's a conspiracy. Like they collude, like they plot against me. They lie, like they're gaslighting and all that. Like they just stare at me, and then they get all these ideas in their head, and then they're like, I'll do this and I'll do that. And like, oh, I'm sinister. Like I'll plot against you. Like start a conspiracy. Let's deprive him of all this stuff. So like I just kind of take it easy. Like I don't risk a lot anymore because it got old. It turned into like a joke. Like 100 girls I tried to talk to, and they all say no, basically. So I mean, like people used to be like, "Oh, you look like Jimi Hendrix," and I'm like, "What the fuck are you trying to say? Like, did he get a lot of pussy or something? Because I haven't been getting any." So like, why the fuck are you trying to tell me I look like Jimi Hendrix? Like, did you miss the memo about a conspiracy? Like, what the fuck are you on, man? You know. So they stopped doing that. I haven't heard anything recently. Like, people used to be like, "Oh, you look like a model. You should model." It's like, okay. I mean, like, nothing happens. It's like, how the fuck do you start modeling then? It's like, yeah, I want to get paid for that. Like, they're all white people. They're all like stupid and racist. Um, so it's bullshit. Um, that's what I'm getting out of it, at least. Um, you know, I kind of wish I had a fucking gun. Like these faggots who chipped my teeth, I would have just shot them in self defense. But I didn't do anything. I wasn't trying to start a fight. Like they have knives and shit. It's just like, oh, I wish I had a fucking gun so I could just shoot them. You know, people like I tried to do a psychedelic Beatles thing or like a world peace thing, like woo, but like they just get mad. Like you see them getting angry. They're like, you know, like, all right. I mean, like the Beatles did LSD. Like I tried to do something like that, but it didn't work. I tried to do like a world peace, you know, hippie thing, but it didn't work. Um, Understandably so. I mean, I hang out with the hippies sometimes. I talk to them, you know. It's like, okay, that's right. Like I did do it right. You know, like we're on the same page. It's like, okay, I had to make sure of that. Like, sorry. You know, it's like, okay, we're on the same. I was like, okay, yeah, I did it right. You know, basically, like they're, you know, it's like, yeah, we're speaking. Like they know, like they do mushrooms too. They do LSD, DMT too. They smoke weed too. It's like, okay, yeah, 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 right. We're on the same page there. Like, that's what it is. Call it a conspiracy. I mean, whatever. Like, some of these people don't like deserve to know some of this shit. Like, you know, because they try to use it against you. Like, oh, you did LSD. Um, that's bad. It's like, uh, it's kind of a plot. Whatever. I'll talk about this thing. Like, it's not all about looks. Like these bitches or girls are not into just looks. So it's like, oh, you should be a model, whatever, doesn't matter. Like, some of the finest bitches get fucked by some of the ugliest dudes. It's like, oh, they must be funny, they must have a lot of money, or what? Because they're fucking ugly and shit, and so it doesn't matter. It's like, just as long as, you know, they're not getting fucked by a black dude, they're alright, I guess. So they're racist. Like, I've seen some of the worst shit ever in my day. So there's like some conflict because psychedelics show me the most beautiful things that I could ever see. You know, I keep laughing at Dragon Ball Z because Goku's trying to. Like, it's just kind of comedy because we all know. I mean, like Marvel comics and DC have like some, you know, like I said earlier, um, they, you know, have some connection to LSD and mushrooms. I mean, and psychedelics in general and DMT, but like they like try to conceal it, you know, as like more hidden information. But then you get to some anime such as Dragon Ball, and they're just like filling in the blanks. It's just kind of funny as hell, you know. Um, but a lot of people don't know that. Like Goku's outfit is orange and blue. I'll talk about it more later, but you know that's connected to a lot of things. I'll probably just write about it. It's just kind of funny. It's like you do mushrooms and you see like orange stuff, or not just like the green and purple shit, or you know, lower doses. Like when you can still walk around, you'll see like yellow. You know, like when you do LSD, everything turns 3D, and you can see like the red and green overtones on everything. you don't shit doesn't turn 3D when you do mushrooms, but it looks, well, it looks kind of 3D, you know, like a Pixar film, but it looks like elves and shit. I'll talk about it more later. Like, you know, it looks like a slushy, but um, if you go deeper, like when you pass out, like you'll see like the psychedelic stuff, and it's similar to smoking DMT and seeing a veil, like a chrysanthemum, if you don't break through, and it's like orange sometimes. But I mean, it's kind of like they're just like fuck it, like we'll just reference psychedelics or whatever. I mean, the Beatles were popular in Japan, so um, um, so you know, like girls are attracted to like stuff that happens. So it's not about looks. It's like, oh, you got to be manly. So you know, like Joe Rogan and them talk about like, oh, why are these females like attracted to like serial killers and shit like that, and you know, they're like, oh, I want a real man and all that and shit like that. So that's obvious how the female head works. Like, oh, you know, guy, like, I want protection, shit. Like, shut up, bitch. They're like extra sensitive to like how the world is. It's like, oh, it's gonna be anarchy and apocalypse. Like, oh, I need protection. I need like a survival guide. So they don't want like a nice guy or anything like that. Whatever. So you know, they do want to be raped. Basically, like you can't get consent. Like it's never been about consent. That's a lie. You know, like no bitch is gonna call the cops if you like rape them. I guess. So once you know that makes sense, then you should be good or whatever. I should be good or whatever. I mean, figure that much out. Um, it is what it is. So there's that, and then um, you know, like I used to write a lot about shit. I used to try to be deep and all that, but it's not just because no one comments on the shit, but like people don't believe me. So I just started you know, it's like whatever, you know, it's people don't fucking care. I'm just gonna write a book and sell it for money. But then so I just like post shit like cartoons and shit because it shows like all these people, you know, in their head basically like some shit is in their head. Is that you got to talk about it and believe you, or whatever. So I just post like shit like that because that's what it's like. Like I'll post a Dragon Ball and they're fighting. I mean, that's what's going on. It's like, hey, I smoked DMT. I saw everything. I saw the truth, but these people don't believe me. They're like, oh, tell us. Like it's not the truth isn't going to be like what you want to hear. Like it kind of turned into a game, and then you know they continue on with their lives. Like that's not how it works. Like I don't think this is the first time in history this has happened. I think there's the Jesus archetype, so they killed him. And there's Joseph, the King of Dreams. Like it's all in the Bible. Like everything happened already. Like the shit is happening already. Like if I were to write a story of my life, it would parallel pretty well with a Bible and what happened. Um, so they're like pieces of shit. Um, that's what it seems like. I think I could explain it that way. That's what happened basically. Details are pretty trivial. You know, people might say, oh, you would think this or you would think that or whatever. None of that shit really matters. Um, so it's largely been like that. Um, and in case you're wondering, that's why I do that. Like I just post cartoons now. For the most part, every now and then I'll have to like write something and I'll be quick about it because you know what kind of fool do I look like sitting there like writing something when people are watching. Like it makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like it, so I stopped. I have to wait until I'm really alone before I can write something. I'm not gonna do it like this in these conditions. um, so all that's been done already. Right now I'm just posting like Seru, or you know, Cell from Dragon Ball Z, because that's what it's like. Like, you know, you have these people like walking around. Like you could do a low dose of LSD and walk around, or a lower dose of mushrooms and like walk around. And you got, people say like, oh, you got to get the whole thing. And like, I get it. Like I've done DMT before, but people don't want that. Like they want more mushroom stuff. It's pretty good. I like mushrooms, but you got to do this, got to do that. I like it. Like the mushrooms tend to have more closed-eyed stuff than LSD, even though it has its own. But like LSD seems like more synthetic, whereas mushrooms kind of seem more natural and everything. Like I've had entity contact from LSD too. Like I've had like people, like a guy, it looked like a boy or something, like run up to me when I was on LSD. Like I had to close my eyes. Then I smoked weed on LSD, and like a character ran up to me. He was wearing like a mask, and he looked like a boy or something. Like it was just weird. Like it looked like a mushroom spirit character, but I was on LSD. But it seemed like I was on mushrooms, and this like guy just ran up to me and he was like staring at me. It was pretty fucking creepy. But he like disappeared after a while. And I was like, oh shit, man. I'm high as fuck. It's like, what does it mean? This is after all the DMT I've done. So after that, I just did like LSD and mushrooms because I had to take a break from the DMT, kind of. It wasn't right. It's like, okay, man, I don't have a girlfriend. Like, I haven't been staring at any naked chicks. So, what gives? But it sucks. Like, I stopped, like, because I stopped trying to talk to girls. Like I said, I've talked to like 100 girls and they all say no, like for some reason. So like talking doesn't even seem worth it. Like it makes little sense. Um, I look at it like there's like a risk. There's like is the risk worth it? I'll think about it. And it's like, you know what? Like I don't feel like it. Like I don't feel like getting rejected and getting my feelings hurt. Like it happens often. It's like, what's the fucking point, man? Like, you know, I'm looking more so for like a mail order bride. Like I should just like order a bride online, do it that way. Because whenever I try to like talk to a bitch in person, like it doesn't work. Like can't do anything. They already have a boyfriend. They don't have a phone. They don't have a phone number. They're not on social media. They don't have a Twitter. You know, so it's like, uh, whatever, man. Like, it's like, what do you want? It's like, hey, you want to smoke weed? You want MDMA? Like, you want to drink? You want to eat? Like, you want to eat something? Like, you just want to eat? Like, I could take you out to eat or drink or whatever. So I stopped doing it. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not worth it. Like after a certain point, something happens. I'm not comfortable with being used as an aphrodisiac for other people. Um, these fucking people do that. Like they keep trying to get my attention. We'll talk and then they leave. It's like they could be a bitch and then she's like, talk to me or whatever. It's like it's not worth it. And like I know what's gonna happen. Like so it's like, oh, maybe this time will be different. So like I'll go, I'll try to talk, but then nothing happens. Like they leave, and it's like, okay, well they're basically gonna get fucked that night. Like she's gonna suck someone's dick that night. So there's no point. Like you don't deserve to use my magic for that reason. Like I'm not talking to you so you could fuck someone else that day. Like I'm talking to you so we could fuck. Like I'm not talking to you so you could fuck someone else. And yet they still do it. So that's one reason why I stopped. I was like, okay, I mean, I'll try sometimes. Like some of it might be worth the risk, but at this point, I gotta just like find some mail order bride. I mean, some shit that's gonna be automatic and guaranteed. Otherwise, like shit's not gonna really fly. I mean, you know, you know. What's worse is the other shit. I had to get my chip tooth fixed and all that, but this virus is problematic because I had a dentist appointment recently, but because of the virus, everything shut down. I have to wait. It's like, you know, I'm really trying to get my teeth cleaned and all that, and go to the fucking dentist and get my teeth fixed and shit. Who knows what they're probably gonna try to do some bullshit like remove one or something. I'm not down with that. Like I probably have to go to my old dentist in Sacramento to touch it up because I'm not sure if I really trust these people. Like they keep trying to remove my tooth and give me a bracket. It's like no, I'm not gonna fall for that. Like that was their fucking plan. It's like, oh, get a haircut. You know, it's like if you add from somewhere, you gotta subtract from somewhere. Like there are pros and cons to that. Like there's a chick who's like, oh, you know, I'll fuck you because of your hair. But like if I get a haircut, that chick won't fuck me. But some other chick, you know, there's like a chick who'll fuck me because of my hair. There's some chick who will only fuck me if I'm bald. So it's like, oh, I gotta get a haircut. But it's like, oh, if I get a haircut, you know, the other chick won't fuck me. So I gotta like, you know, do it that way. And so it's like, I can't get a haircut right now, man. You know, stupid shit like that. Probably call it a day right here. I'll do it another video soon. There's some other stuff I wanted to talk about, I guess. Some other stuff might happen. Some other stuff might come up in the next few days or whatever. I'll do another video then. I'll probably talk about DMT some more DMT experiences. It's kind of like integrate what I learned, which I've been doing and stuff like that. So I'll talk about some other stuff and blame what happened on these fucking people. The Sacramento Psychedelic Society is bullshit. You know, it's run by retards and losers. They deserve to get their asses beat. They're the Ginyu Force incarnate, basically, so they suck. I'll clarify more about that later. I'm going to talk about this in a different video, but I didn't like post about Captain Ginyu so people could do it, like, and they're actually seriously trying to like pull that shit off. But you know, I posted it to let them know that I was aware of what they were trying to do. Some people already fell for it. Like the people who didn't watch DBZ growing up, like, don't know shit. Like I was actually fortunate enough to have read Spider-Man comics growing up, and like these people think I didn't do it, and I didn't know. They keep trying to like show me shit that they think I don't know about, which is pretty annoying. Like I think something happened that made them think that I was like not knowledgeable about. Like, something happened that made them think I was like dumb or something. So they keep trying to like lecture me on certain shit, which is dumb. It's really fucking dumb. Last thing I'm gonna say is something about the chair of Taliesin. Like people think you just like go to a bar and pick chicks up or whatever. It might work for some people. It doesn't work for me because they're fucking racist. But I think that's what it is about, really. Like you say that Kadir Taliesin, like yeah, you don't ask to sit somewhere. Like you can be someone's fucking chair. Like you don't just like sit there. I mean you can, but like you don't need it to do that and all that. So all that happened. That's what it's about, I think, despite anything else. So you know, if something doesn't make sense to you, just remember that they're fucking racist. You know. You know, these people think like, oh yeah, I did that. Like I went to a bar and like picked a chick up, some shit. Like, I mean, like you don't really have to like say anything about the chair of Taliesin. Like you could be doing it and just like do it. You know, like you don't have to like come up with the whole model for what it is. But that's what happened. Yeah, like you know, whatever. Like I also don't agree that like comic books and graphic novels are gonna like completely replace literature. I think it's more of a supplement than anything else. Uh, you know, but like to like it's different. Like I could review a book, but I could also like talk about interpretations of it. Like it's not just like reviewing the plot or summarizing the plot. It's also like interpreting the text, whether it's going to be timely or not. Like, but that's what people don't get. Like they always get mad, like, oh, you didn't even talk about the book. I mean, I keep saying I was gonna write a book and like put everything in there. Like I feel like sharing shit online for free, but um, that it's definitely possible to interpret a book, you know, in a certain way. Another thing I tried to do was do like a Timothy Leary style thing, like a fun, like just information packed thing with different stuff in it. So it's, not just like talking about one thing, but like trying to relate everything together. But from what I've seen so far, the previews I've done on that didn't really fly well because again, people are like, "Oh, you didn't even talk about that," or "That picture is not even related to what you wrote about," or "This isn't that. You didn't even say anything about that." Like, just really weird. Like, people really don't know what's going on. Like, they really can't tell what's going on or something. Like, it's really weird because they need shit spelled out. Like once you get to that point, like I had to stop and do a lot of thinking because like the fact that they need all this shit spelled out for them is just really weird. Like they always act like they know what's going on and shit, but it's kind of interesting, like following the narrative online and seeing how well they're following along. But they need like more literal stuff. Like they can't, like they don't know what's going on, or they can't like tell, like. So I have to say that, like, oh, this is meant to be like a Timothy Leary style thing, you know, or whatever. So I hope to finish all that, and then probably just do another video soon.